In times of suffering and uncertainty, humanity has often turned to great schools of thought for solace and guidance. Among these, two stand out remarkably: the Stoic philosophy of ancient Greece and Rome, and the Christian faith, rooted in the life and teachings of Jesus Christ. On the surface, these two seem worlds apart, one grounded in rational self-mastery, the other in devotion to a sovereign God. Yet when we look deeper, we discover a surprising convergence of wisdom. Today, we will explore two of the most powerful lessons they both teach. First, the art of accepting what we cannot control, and second, the transformative power of suffering. The Stoics built much of their philosophy around what is famously called the dichotomy of control. This concept is deceptively simple. There are things within our control, our thoughts, our choices, our actions, and there are things outside our control, other people's decisions, circumstances, even our own health or fate. Epictetus, one of the most well-known Stoic philosophers, who himself was born into slavery, captured this truth succinctly. We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them. Likewise, Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and philosopher king, meditated often on this idea. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." For the Stoics, this realization was the very key to inner peace. They taught that anxiety, frustration, and despair often arise not from external events themselves, but from our attempts to control the uncontrollable. Thus, freedom and tranquility come from a laser-like focus on mastering our own minds and letting go of everything else. In parallel, Christianity offers a strikingly similar wisdom, but with a theistic foundation. Rather than relying on human will alone, it points to trust in the sovereignty of God. Scripture teaches repeatedly that humans are limited in both control and understanding, and that true peace comes from surrendering our need for control to God's perfect plan. Proverbs 3:5-6 advises believers, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight." Jesus himself, during the Sermon on the Mount, reassures his followers with these words, "Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." Christian faith, therefore, does not dismiss human responsibility. Rather, it emphasizes that while we are called to act in righteousness, the ultimate outcomes are in God's hands. It invites us into active trust, a partnership where we do our part, but surrender the rest to divine providence. Here we find a fascinating convergence. While Stoicism is fundamentally agnostic, placing its trust in reason and discipline, Christianity places its trust in a personal, loving God. Yet both schools of thought meet at the same critical insight. Human control is profoundly limited, and inner peace is found in accepting this reality. The Stoic finds strength within, honing a disciplined mind to meet the blows of fate. The Christian finds strength in God, believing that even when life seems chaotic, there is a divine purpose. Threading through it all, both systems in their own way resist the modern obsession with control, the illusion that if we just plan well enough or work hard enough, we can dictate every outcome. In truth, much of life is unpredictable, and it is our response, not the event itself, that determines our peace. In today's fast-paced world, these lessons are more relevant than ever. Social media, endless notifications, and global crises make us feel perpetually out of control, sparking anxiety and restlessness. Stoicism whispers to us, focus on your virtues. Are you honest? Are you courageous? Are you fair? Christianity whispers something similar. Trust in God's timing. Are you faithful? Are you obedient? Are you patient? Imagine losing a job unexpectedly. The Stoic would reflect, my employment can be taken from me, but my integrity cannot. The Christian would pray, Lord, I don't understand why this is happening, but I trust that you will provide. The second profound lesson that both Stoicism and Christianity emphasize is the role of suffering in human development. The Stoics saw suffering not as something to avoid at all costs, but as a natural and even necessary part of life. Seneca, another giant of Stoic thought, wrote, "Difficulties, strengthen the mind as labor does the body. In his view, hardships are not punishments, but training grounds. They are opportunities to refine character and build resilience. Marcus Aurelius captured this idea beautifully when he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This is not mere fatalism. It is a radical transformation of mindset. Instead of seeing obstacles as enemies, the Stoic sees them as essential teachers. Courage, patience, wisdom, these are virtues that can only be forged in the fires of trial. Without challenge, virtue remains theoretical, untested, and weak. Christianity offers a remarkably similar yet even deeper understanding of suffering. Throughout the Bible, suffering is portrayed not merely as something to endure, but as something that can be redemptive. The story of Joseph, betrayed by his brothers and sold into slavery, only to rise to power and save nations from famine, is a testament to this. David, hunted by King Saul, learned deep dependence on God in the wilderness. Job, tested to the brink of despair, emerged with a deeper understanding of God's sovereignty. But the ultimate example is Jesus Christ himself. His suffering and crucifixion were not just tragic events. They were the very means of salvation for humanity. The Apostle Paul writes with conviction, "We glory in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, and character, hope." This is echoed by James, who advises believers, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance." Where Stoicism sees suffering as the forge of virtue, Christianity sees it as the crucible of holiness. Both teach that suffering is not the enemy, it is a tool. However, there is a key difference. Stoicism views suffering as a neutral, natural phenomenon, something to work through and grow stronger by enduring. Christianity, by contrast, sees suffering as potentially purposeful, woven into a larger divine story. The Stoic endures for the sake of self-mastery. The Christian embraces suffering as a pathway to deeper communion with God and ultimately transformation into Christ's likeness. This distinction becomes particularly vivid in real-life scenarios. Consider someone battling a chronic illness. The Stoic response might be, "This illness is beyond my control. I will focus on maintaining my dignity and composure despite it." The Christian response might be, "This illness is part of God's mysterious plan. I will seek to glorify Him through my weakness, trusting that He will work all things for good." Both approaches lead to strength and dignity, yet one draws power from inner resolve, while the other draws power from divine trust. In both of these great traditions, we find an invitation to rise above the surface-level reactions of fear, anger, or despair. We are called instead to respond with courage, patience, and deep trust, whether in reason or in God. This is especially countercultural today, when the dominant message is often one of control, optimization, and self-actualization. Yet life, as we all inevitably discover, resists our best efforts to control it. Circumstances shift, people betray, bodies fail. In these moments, Stoicism and Christianity alike remind us that peace and growth are still possible. As we reflect on these teachings, a natural question arises. Can one adopt both Stoic discipline and Christian faith? Historically, many have. The early church fathers were familiar with Stoic thought and often wove its insights into Christian theology. They recognized that while the two systems have different foundations, reason versus revelation, they often arrive at similar moral and practical conclusions. For modern seekers, the wisdom of both can serve as complementary tools. Stoicism offering the clarity of self-mastery, Christianity offering the hope of divine purpose. In conclusion, whether you stand on the foundation of rational philosophy or spiritual faith, these timeless lessons invite you to live with courage, humility, and resilience. Accept what you cannot control and release the rest. See suffering not as destruction but as a gateway to transformation. In doing so, you align yourself with some of the deepest wisdom humanity has ever known. Which of these paths speaks more deeply to you? Or do you find strength in both? Whatever your answer, may you walk forward with peace and purpose,